I'm very worried about my son. More than worried at this point. Terrified. His behavior these past few weeks have not been normal. They're not healthy. It makes me think there's something wrong. At first, he would just come and stand at the doorway. He did this at night, just before I'd be ready to fall asleep. I'd roll over and turn off the lamp, and he'd be standing there, in the doorway. I used to try to speak with him. I don't do that anymore. He never has answered me. He just stares. A couple of days ago, he graduated from standing in the doorway to coming in and sitting on the bed. He still doesn't speak. I've asked him what he wants. I've asked him if anything is bothering him. It's not like him to be so quiet. He usually waits until my wife is asleep. That's the part that gets me. She always falls asleep before me, and he has never come in when she's awake. But then she doesn't have a hand in this. If something doesn't change soon, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm starting to feel like he knows I'm the one who killed him. I never liked Emily. Not that she actually did anything to me. She just had that sly, knowing look in her eyes all the time. And that "I know something nasty about you" grin. Like she'd listen to all your secrets, but tell everybody if she could. She had a way of turning up when you weren't expecting her to. Uninvited. But there she'd be, grinning, knowing that she'd surprised you. And that even though you hadn't really wanted her around, your mom would just sigh and say, "Well, she's like family. I can't think why you don't like her. She's never done anything to you, has she? Of course I'm not going to send her away. Don't be silly." So I decided to make Emily go away for good. I went with her to the park, and while crossing the bridge over the little lake there, I pushed Emily through the fancy railing and into the cold, cold lake. It was a lot harder than I thought, but I got her through and watched as she sunk under the surface. Relieved, I skipped back home, Emily free forever. My mother didn't even ask why she wasn't with me. Probably because when I got back to my room, there Emily was, sitting on my bed, grinning that sly "I know a secret" grin, still damp from the lake. God help me. I'm going to scream. Who knew dolls could swim? You've made a lot of them, but you've always managed to escape the consequences so far. You know that flash out of the corner of your eye, like picking up some peripheral movement just out of sight, and then you turn your head, and there's nothing there? That was one of the times you've made a mistake. That creeping, unsettling feeling that you're being watched, that there is something dark and sinister near that can you see. That's a warning that tens of thousands of years of instinct has driven into your body, that you're about to make a mistake. And that unexplainable bruise, that fresh cut you can't remember receiving, those times you wake up sweating, screaming, and breathing like you've just run a marathon and can't remember why. Those are the times when they almost got you. What are they? Well, it's hard to describe. Imagine trying to explain red to a blind man. You can't really explain it, you just have to experience it for yourself. And you don't really want to experience this, I can assure you. I can tell you that you are just one thing to them: food. And they can keep you alive for quite a long time while they eat. You've probably heard at least one unexplainable sound while listening to this. Maybe it's nothing, but sometimes it's one of them trying to break through, just to find you. But they won't, of course. Not unless you make a mistake. And when you make a mistake, it's like dangling a piece of meat in front of a pack of hungry dogs and then yanking it away. Sometimes they don't react quick enough. Sometimes they do. There are so many unsolved disappearances over the centuries. It's hard to tell how many were victims of their own kind and how many were simply one too many mistakes. You see, it's when people are most worried about making mistakes that they tend to mess up the most. What mistakes are there to make? Well, if I told you that, you'd just be sure you didn't make them anymore. And that would be a shame. We almost got you last time.